that Jane is. We're delighted that Jane McCauliffe is here with us today, and she comes to us all the way from Bluffton. So she is one of our Bluffton members, and I'm not sure what the right statistic is right now. Oh, membership chairman Linda Jackson, that you are, but we might be up approaching 25% of our membership coming from Bluffton these days. So it's pretty exciting to have Jane with us here and telling us all about the Bluffton members as part of our family.
We're growing.
This is the fifth member spotlight that we've done, and this is the last in our series on Zoom that we took on for the January, February, and March period. We started with Betty and heard a little bit about Betty and her awesome career, Miss Navy, and her federal experience. We then talked to Lisa Loneman, who was a newer member, and she had great experience in public health and just so much interesting information to share about her career there. Then we talked with Sue Grossbeck about her exciting career in secondary education worldwide, literally worldwide, and all of those life experiences that she brought to the table. And last time we visited with Claudia Aller and learned a little bit about Claudia and the world of banking and what her experience brought. And we're excited for Claudia next year to assume the role of WAHHI president with her awesome volunteer board and council members. And today we're with Jane McCauliffe, and we're excited that Jane is the nominated president-elect for 2022-2023 as well. So this conversation is even more poignant now, given that information and the voting process that will happen at the April luncheon. So we're excited about that. The inspiration behind doing this series, Member Spotlight series, was really just all of the incredible women that we have in our association and putting a little sunshine on those throughout. Also, we really appreciate the opportunity to, of course, sip a little happy hour wine together. We're drinking Rodney Strong Rosé today. As we like to say, rosé all day.
Right.
That's always fun. We have to sip.
Yes, we do. You can't cheer without sipping.
And again, the old Doer Scotch ad that was on the back of the Fortune magazine, and it was, what do they drink? What do they do? What do they like? And so Dos Equis has the most interesting men of the world. WAHHI has the most interesting women of the world. And that's what Member Spotlight allows us to experience. So, and we've done it 4 times, and this is a 5th. So at the end of the session today, you'll get a little email survey, 5 questions, and just give us your feedback. I think we are talking with Claudia about doing Member Spotlight again next winter season when folks are inside and they want to log in and do something similar. And we'll be featuring a whole new complement of women next year as well. So if you've got other suggestions for people that we should be featuring, I know we've got like New York City law enforcement professionals. We've got amazing motivational keynote speakers. We've got a whole bunch of different women that are just rich opportunities to learn a little bit more about their story.
So get ready, ladies. I'm looking at some of you on the screen, so some of you might be invited.
Jane's bringing it.
Right.
So, and that's kind of appropriate because Jane has a professional experience base that is far-reaching and awesome. And she's been a university leader, a senior executive, a management consultant, and has done lots of volunteer and paid board work as well. She's well-versed in strategic planning and operations, fundraising, risk management. So when Claudia identified Jane, it was kind of like, oh, she's the whole package and she wants to do it. Yay! Which is always the thing, because it's particularly to note that Jane is working full-time, and she is working full-time 3 jobs. So her first job is she serves as Vice President of Learning Services for the Princeton Review and Tutor.com. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that job and leading that team that includes about 4,000 tutors across the world.
Yeah.
Across the world, 4,000 tutors across the world. Outside of her full-time position, she also is a personal stylist for Cabby Clothing. And she also is a health coach, and she's passionate about all 3 of those things as well. She earned her BA and MA in special education and her PhD in curriculum and instructional special education from ASU, Arizona State. and I don't know what they
Go
are.
Devils.
Go Devils. Okay. So Jane, tell us a little bit about how did you come to Bluffton and how did you come to WAHHI?
As soon as I moved to Bluffton, it was the first thing I did is I went online and looked up wonderful women's associations. And what do you think came up first? WAHHI, WAHHI. I know. So immediately I started looking into it, and I just looked at the website and looked at the interest groups and decided I was going to join right away because I wanted to connect with women. I had recently lived in Charleston on Daniel Island for the past 4 years, and we had those knocks on the door during COVID and people wanting to buy our home, and our daughter was a senior at the time, and we decided to go for it because she was online during COVID, so we could live anywhere. So we sold our home and quickly had to decide where we were going to live. So we explored Bluffton. We looked a little bit in Charleston and couldn't find what we wanted. And Marty and I always came up here and did little day trips to downtown Bluffton and fell in love with it. And he always wanted to live on a golf course. So here we are. We found Berkeley Hall and absolutely love it. That was about 1.5 years ago. And I was just, moving to a place that I knew nobody. I didn't have a single friend, and I knew I would make friends in my community, but I wanted to reach out and learn more about the community overall, and in Hilton Head especially, and wanted to make friends. So that's why I reached out and found out.
Awesome. How long and you lived in Daniel Island 4 years? 4 years. So you must have gone to the Volvo tennis tournament.
Sure, living right around the corner.
Whoa. Coming up next 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your family. I think you just celebrated your 30th wedding anniversary with Marty.
I did. It was fun. Yeah, we did. We came to a restaurant on Hilton Head and had a lovely time. My husband was an attorney, still is an attorney, I guess I should say. He was a prosecutor and a defense attorney focusing on DUI in Vegas and in Arizona at the time. And we have 4 kids. So as soon as we started multiplying and my job started taking off, he decided he would be the stay-at-home dad. So many, many stories I could share about that. But he's incredible. He's my biggest support. He was there cheering me along as my career took off, and he sort of took that back seat. But he also is very passionate about education and health coaching. So he has been teaching online for several universities and law schools ever since our kids were little. So
awesome.
he got right into technology and left the law field, but then stayed connected and teaches criminal and ethics and those kinds of courses. So that's Marty. He enjoys golf. I know some of you we've golfed with. I think Jude, we paired up with you at one point, and Marty, she got to meet Marty. And
does he golf every day?
Just about 3 to 4 times a week, probably.
Awesome.
Because he's teaching online.
And do you golf every day?
No, I'm just starting. Taking several lessons, and if the weather's nice, I'll go out and kind of have fun. But
are you part of the 9 and Wine interest group?
I am involved in the golf clinic group.
Okay, yep. Awesome.
Yeah, we'll get there.
The toes in the water with WAHHI golf.
I know. And then we have 4 kids, beautiful kids, amazing kids. They are the love of our lives, and we have 3 of them that live in Germantown, Maryland, and they all live together, believe it or not, and they all get along.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Our oldest is the first one that moved from San Diego. We were in San Diego before we moved to Daniel Island, and Brad went to USC in California and then got his master's degree at Johns Hopkins in DC and works at the State Department. So very successful career. Christopher was our second one. He went to University of Redlands in California and got his master's degree in divinity at Wake Forest, and he's now an associate minister, a pastor for Potomac Presbyterian Church in Potomac, Maryland. And then Corey went to American University because he followed his brothers who were already in DC, and he got his bachelor's degree from there, and then came home during COVID and stayed with us on Daniel Island and got his master's degree from College of Charleston. So of course he immediately got a job next to the brothers, and 2 of the oldest just bought their first home, and so the 3 of them are living together.
How awesome is that?
That's awesome. I know, it is fun. So that's where we like to go quite a bit, and they'd love to come down here.
Yeah.
And then Caitlin is our 4th. And she is a freshman at Elon University and is loving it. And she was here this weekend. We had spring break. She brought home her first boyfriend and some friends. I know.
I get that in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
I'm so excited.
It is fun. And we approved. It's his first girlfriend too. So they are just adorable. It's it's very sweet. So we had a great week.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you ever think the boys would be all living together?
Never. No, I know, but they do all get along and they're all very different and
That's great.
yeah, that's
great.
very cool. Proud of them.
So Jane started off her professional work life as a middle school special ed teacher. And she's finished working right now in academics at the, what do you call the college level? College level academics. There you go. So when you got what got you interested in special ed and your experiences as a new teacher in the field? Because that is definitely one of the more demanding work areas that you could go into, I would think.
It is. And I was all geared up to be an elementary school teacher. And so as part of your program, at Arizona State, like any other program, you had to go and do volunteer work in the classroom. So I happened to spend some time. They sent me to a school that was for very severely impaired students with disabilities, very tough behavioral disorders. And I immediately fell in love. So I worked a few hours a week at that point for school. And then they hired me on. And so I worked in the summers and just really got a deep dive into meeting the whole family and the structures of kids with special needs and what goes on in those families. And so I spent time working as a respite care provider on the weekends so that moms and dads could take a break while I watched their children with autism or very severe disabilities. And I just loved it. My husband, at the time we were dating, and he fell in love with them as well. So I still am in touch with several of those children. I remember sitting in Sandbox. It was my last day of volunteering in this special ed school, and I was getting ready to go back to the classroom and do my elementary education assignment the next semester. And this little boy named Danny was sitting in the Sandbox with me, and he said, "You know, Miss McCauliffe," or Mrs. Chipman at the time, "you're not going to come back. You're not going to be my teacher anymore." And he had this little tear in his eye. And I said, "No." He says, but I want you to teach people like me." And it like struck me. And I was like, what am I doing? Why am I in elementary school? I love working with this population. So I did. I switched my major and focused on special education. And then the transition from there, did you ask me that piece? Yeah. How I transitioned. How long did you stay at the middle school level? Yeah, so then I graduated with my undergrad, got my teaching license, and I worked a couple of years and started having kids. But what happened is when I was in my master's program and my doctoral program, I became a TA, and then I started supervising student teachers. And then once I went to the classroom, I was connected to Arizona State, so they kept feeding me all these student teachers, and I just loved that. I loved teaching adults how to teach, and that was my passion. I soon found out. So I did leave the K-12 environment and took on sort of that big career in higher education. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. What was it like then to move, because in the middle school classroom, when probably everybody is at their most awkward phase of your life is in middle school, right? You're like 7th grade and all nerdy, and you're not looking like Angelina Jolie at that point. And then you're moving into the university setting. What was that transition like with the student population? Because when you're 18, you know everything in the world, right? And you don't really need your seniors. Correct. Yes. Fortunately, the people who were in my classrooms at the time in the higher education classrooms were so focused on kids. So we would share the stories, and they were doing some of their assignments in the K-12 classroom. So we would just bring it on and bring them in together. So we probably learned together. I was young and just knew I loved teaching. And so I think at that point, I was just teaching what I was experiencing during the day, or what I did in the K-12 classroom. And we just brought that to life in front of people who maybe didn't have those same experiences. So when you think about students today, how are they different from like in the 80s or 90s or 50s or 60s? Because now all of the students have gone through COVID. They've all had a Sandy Hook moment or something traumatic like that with their experience. They've had a lot of displacement. What are you seeing in today's classroom at the university level? When I think about that question, it was a matter of sort of what did I see over the years, right? So what we were challenged with and fighting with in my early days in higher education, because I was affiliated with non-traditional schools. So I was a big proponent of fighting for working adults who needed a place to go to school. And back in the 80s, 90s, that was very much something that traditional schools opposed. They didn't understand online education as opposed to now, right, where we had to survive using online education or Zoom education. So it was kind of, I remember at Arizona State University co-teaching a class with a professor, and it was the first time we were teaching the teachers to be how to create an email and what email was and how to share documents. I mean, think about that. I mean, that was life-changing for a classroom teacher. But at the same time, when you went out into the real world and you were up against legislators and senators who didn't understand what online education was, and they were trying to keep online schools or non-traditional schools in this box, the same box as traditional universities, it was difficult. So it was, we became very passionate about making sure that adults could find a place to go to school because they were working during the day, and they couldn't go to school during the day in the traditional classroom. So we needed to find schools that could do it in the evenings and weekends and be able to cater to that.
When you think about the whole pandemic experience and what higher education had to do, my daughter was at grad school during COVID, and her school shut down. And those teachers had to pivot literally within 10 working days to get their curriculum back up online, get the kids ready to learn with their laptop, with their online education and their courses. You know, God bless them. And some of them hadn't ever done that.
Right.
They hadn't done e-learning.
And to teach parents how to do that.
And to teach and how
Like
to
if you had young
parents,
kids, right?
yeah.
So if you had kindergarten, first grade, they didn't know how to get on by themselves. So we had to really help parents along the journey.
I still have challenges getting on myself.
We all do, I think. Yeah.
So yet when you met then from the university setting into more higher education administration in your career as you kind of continued to advance, and you had to deal with all of the personalities and the big brains and all of the people that are academics, right? What was that experience like versus in the classroom with students?
I think my passion is really bringing people together. And it doesn't matter what level they are or how much expertise they have. We all can find something in common, right? And we share a certain passion, especially if we're in the same field. So it was a matter of allowing them to have a voice. It was a matter of me listening to them. My first big role as a university president, my second university president role, we had purchased a school from the Sisters of St. Francis. And it was a failing school. It wasn't going to survive unless we invested some money in it. And so my job was to go and teach the sisters about online education and that how we could keep their mission and still bring more students in to make it a more stable university and college experience. So we did that, and it was a whole lot of, I mean, we had very unique backgrounds, right? Cultures, educational practices, but we had that same passion about.
Did the nuns have a ruler?
No, I know, but they have some great stories. I spent some time in the dorms, living in the dorms with them, just so we could understand each other better and kind of share that mission and convince them that we were all in this together. So it's really about finding people where they are and listening, valuing, and knowing that we're all in this together.
So you've really been affiliated with Arizona State for a long time.
In the beginning,
as a student to in a lecture teacher role, and they've really been on the upswing of the whole e-learning process through that.
Yeah. And when I left Arizona State, became, you know, as a mom, stayed home mom for a couple of years, and then I just got that itch and had to go back. And my first role in non-traditional education was at University of Phoenix with John Sperling, who in the 70s created this wild idea about online education.
And look at University of Phoenix now.
Yeah, so they've been up and down, and right, but they are the ones who really tried to show America and probably the world about what it means to help working adults and why we need to help working adults and to give, you know, we come from the belief that everyone deserves an education if they want it. So we were going to find a way to do it. And that was
awesome. That's awesome. So as you're still working full time at tutor.com, what's the best thing that you're finding working with the educators of the youth? Because you're not the teacher now, but you're having that shift again.
Yeah, and when I made
you want to talk a little bit about what tutor.com does, so people kind of understand what that is?
Yeah, and people are more familiar with the Princeton Review, which is kind of the test prep side of things, and tutor.com handles all of the like homework help. So we work with libraries and corporations and higher education institutions and K-12 schools and
Military.
That's where we have something in common. And we provide tutoring, and most of the time free tutoring, right? Because these corporations or schools get grants, and that's how they're paying for their tutoring. And so what we noticed is this real shift the last few years when COVID hit, is that our 4,000 tutors were focused on actually tutoring. A student comes in with a question, we help them with that question. We don't give answers. We do kind of parallel, assignments and that sort of thing, or help them with their writing structure and that sort of thing. But what we found is the tutoring shifted from tutoring to then teaching. So it was a matter of working with our tutors to get them prepared, because the students were online, right? So you had your second and third graders online doing online education, and sometimes the learning curve, was going up and down. And so it wasn't going to be just a tutoring a session anymore. It was going to be more of an educational teaching session. So I saw a real shift, which was interesting. But I think what excites me, transitioning from K-12 to higher education and now working with tutors, I have an amazing team of 37 or so individuals who work remotely across the United States, and they're all passionate about making sure we know what goes on in each of those sessions. We do thousands of sessions per day. It's a lot of kids and adults that need help. So we do everything from K-12 through adult learning and career health and that sort of thing. But I think everyone is passionate about that aha moment and making sure that still happens. So no matter what job I've been in, I still make sure I'm connected to that learning piece. And that's
awesome.
Piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's changing lives.
Yes,
That's what educators do, just like Sue, changing lives. Good on you. So what are some of the challenges? We understand your professional journey now. What are some of the challenges that you face along this journey that helped you become the person you are today?
There's a key one. And I always tell my teams this story about, and it's because I think it's because why I'm doing what I'm doing throughout my whole career. When I was in high school, I grew up very poor. My dad had left us. My mom had 5 kids and left us. Most of the kids were out of the house except for me and my brother. And so she kind of raised us, and we moved back in with grandma in Pittsburgh, where I was near Claudia. We didn't know it at the time. And we lived, my mom and I, by the time my brother went away to college, my mom and I lived in a 1-room apartment right down the street from Brentwood High School, Claudia. And I remember visiting a friend who graduated the year before me, and she said, come up to Slippery Rock University and stay the weekend. I knew nothing about colleges. I was enrolled in the secretarial school and received kind of an honorary scholarship to attend, it's like Bradford School of Business or something downtown, to do shorthand and typing and get on that secretarial track. So I went to visit my girlfriend, and I fell in love with the campus. Like, I was just in awe. I couldn't believe it. Everything from the sub shop to the school store, and listening to their homework assignments and meeting their friends, and just the
experience.
Yeah, the whole thing. I went home and I was like, Mom. I mean, we just weren't exposed to that. And my brother did kind of non-traditional school and worked full time. So I went back to my high school counselor and said, I want to change all my classes. I want to go to college. And I was a senior, began my senior year. And he said, you can't do that. You weren't on that track. And I said, well, I'm going to college. And so I did, and found my way. Started at Slippery Rock University for a semester, and then transferred to Arizona State, where some of my family still lives. I was born in Arizona. And I graduated, and I just kept getting scholarships, from bachelor. So I stayed at Arizona State the whole time. And when I graduated my doctoral degree, I sent an invitation to that high school counselor, and they posted it in the office, because my 6th grade teacher called me, and she said, we were like screaming from, this.
That's
we were
so
just
awesome.
raising the roof over here. It's so amazing, your success story, because we put it on the bulletin board as people walk into the front office. So I don't know if that counselor ever got it, but my 6th grade teacher did. And we're still friends to this day. We're friends on Facebook now.
That's fun.
Yeah, so that's part of the working adult. That's part of making sure that everybody, because a lot of working adults missed out on that educational experience, right? And so once the kids go, move on, and sometimes it's time for them, right? And they always want to get that college degree. So my fight and my passion is all about making sure everyone can learn and
Have that
continue to learn.
opportunity.
So it doesn't matter if they're learning in WAHHI, it doesn't matter where they are. It's just providing those experiences to grow.
And it's
So
not.
Jane, I have to interrupt, because not only did you live near Claudia, but her husband went to Slippery Rock.
Did you know that?
No.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical.
No one knows about Slippery Rock.
Oh, that is so funny. I
I
bet
know.
we did the same sub shop.
Yeah.
Too fun. Yeah, so that's my passion.
That's awesome. Is there a change that you would have made earlier in your career? Would you have done something differently? I mean, clearly when you see an opportunity, Jane, like
Mhm.
you're a senior and then you get into college the next year, you made the most of that shift.
Yeah. I think, and the reason why I think I probably did that night, you know, and I wonder, like, how did I ever even think about a doctoral program, right, or a master's program? And it was really listening to mentors. It was listening to professors who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I remember telling my mom, I'm going to enter the master's program now, or I'm going to enter the doctoral program. She's like, what's that? You know, like we just didn't, that wasn't our world. So I think, I don't know, I think it's making sure that networking, right, and understanding that that's important, and
Yeah.
knowing who to connect with and to listen because somebody else sees something in you.
I was
that you
gonna say,
probably
being a
didn't.
great listener,
Yeah.
to be able to take that input on and then kind of process through that.
And strength, right? And
Totally.
and perseverance and
Believe in
belief.
yourself.
Yeah.
Belief in yourself. Sometimes you say fake it till you make it, but sometimes that adage is true
It is.
because you just have to believe
Wing
it.
it. Yeah.
Get your chutzpah on, put your big girl pants on, and you can do it.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of sisterhood in making that happen. And so it's always, you know, that's the great thing about the Women's Association is there's a lot of sisterhood that everybody can rely on each other in making those things happen.
And I bet there's so many stories amongst all of us. Right?
Very
The
similar,
same
and put
thing.
your big girl pants on.
Sit in those boardrooms with all
Yep.
the men, right? Males and but it's really about supporting women too. I mean, that's
Yes.
what I love now. So
Yeah.
my kind of passion now is growing the people on my team. Some have been there for 20 years and I haven't seen, you know, tons of advancement. So it's all about how do we get them to scale up
Yeah.
and get some
Yeah.
growth. Yeah.
So what advice would you give your younger self? If you you're looking back in the mirror, you're saying, wow, look at that robe.
It probably goes back to the listen to people and learn from people and the networking piece. I don't think I understood networking until probably maybe 10 years ago when I was chief academic officer of an education company and I was in charge of all the community services, government affairs. So I was out in the community and I was volunteering and I was chairing boards and I was, you know, involved in McCauliffe. I was on the symphony board and there were so many things that started happening. The connections, just like here, right, that we share so much in common and how we help each other and how we help family members and friends. And so I think, and that's all I tell my kids now. Like when Caitlin was going through sorority rush, I said, has nothing to do with your 4 years here. It's all about now. Like when I moved to Bluffton and I know nobody, I reach out to Kappa Delta or I reach out to WAHHI, you know, and say, I need friends.
Yeah.
We have friends and support. So I think that networking piece I wish I would have started that a little bit earlier.
And now you can have 936 friends in
I love
WAHHI
that. And growing.
and growing,
I know.
which is so cool. What advice would you give young women working in your industry today?
Find a mentor. Find a mentor. I just recently started in the KD mentoring program. So, and it's been a blast. So I've paired so far with 2 individuals who are just starting out their careers. And it's, you almost think, oh, what am I going to share? You know, that first call was kind of intimidating. I had one coming from Harvard, you know, and she had all this experience and she's in the first kind of big job. And the conversation just flows and it's all about, what do I tell my boss? How do I communicate to my boss? It's all the stuff that maybe some of us take for granted. And it's
The soft skills.
yeah, to step back and say, here's what you do, and here's how you do it, and here's how you do it respectfully and at the right time. And so that's been fun. That is
Yeah, that little giving back piece is pretty awesome. I'll do that with some early career professional folks. And the biggest question is, well, how do I ask for a raise? And I mean, there's a whole art about how do you ask for a raise and what's your timing of asking for a raise and how much you ask for. And sometimes you're like,
I know, right? I know the timing is important. That's
So
what
I think it's also having the multiple mentors also, is that not just finding that one horse to hitch to, but having multiple different perspectives of that mentoring opportunity.
I agree. I think that's what excites me most about, a couple of us have been talking about, or maybe you have been for years, is bringing on young professional women into the organization. Just think about how much we can offer those ladies, right? Those young ladies, and just the support we can give them informally. Even.
Yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, awesome. I have not been checking the
We're up to date, Tamra.
chat.
Yeah, we're
Okay, excellent. Cool. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions right now for Jane. If you've got some specific questions that you want to be asking, you can throw them into the chat pod and Alice will give us a shout out. So do you have a best friend?
Several.
Excellent. What can you tell us about your best friend?
Oh my gosh, I have two from high school. That one lives in Dubai and she's getting ready to move back to Pittsburgh, where we grew up, and one stayed in Pittsburgh, right where we grew up. Those are my two from high school that it's like that, and we're back together. And every few weeks we're texting and just keeping in touch. Our kids were all going to be empty nesters, and so it's been fun going through those. But I have a cousin who just moved here. She's like my BFF.
Awesome.
I know my daughter. Obviously, I have to say that as she's grown and matured, our conversations are just priceless to me. And California friends. I mean, everywhere I go, I try to connect with.
Have a
Yeah.
connection.
Have a good connection.
What was the last book you read?
Winemaker's Wife. Loved it. I am currently reading the 5 a.m. Club, which is fascinating, and I'm trying to sort of talk with some of the young professionals about how to utilize your morning. I'm right in the middle of it, so you can imagine I'm not all the way through the end, but it's about what do you do in those magical moments in the morning to get yourself organized for your day. I see some head shaking, so you probably read it. So I kind of like to do some of that leadership.
Are you
stuff.
an early riser?
I am. It's funny you asked that. So all through my career, I get up at 4 or 5. I get the 4 kids, lunch is packed, breakfast made, right? That was my time. I had to have me time. I usually sit in front of the fireplace and have some quiet time to reflect and do some of my readings. And it kind of sets the stage for the day, right?
I'm an early riser. Claudia is also an early riser. We're all in the 5 o'clock club.
Right,
so
we are.
I don't know if that's good or bad now that we're retired,
I know, right?
but old habits die hard. And the morning time
Get
is
a lot
always the
done.
most peaceful and you get a lot done.
Get a lot done.
Are you binge watching television? And if so, what?
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and Emily in Paris were my recent one.
Oh, I love Emily.
Love Emily.
I love Emily. We're watching Sanditon now on PBS. Highly recommend. It's lovely.
Nice.
What is your favorite drink outside of rosé?
Rosé. Well, any
Rosé.
kind of good wine I love. I would say it's a tie between a margarita and an old fashioned. My son makes the best old fashioned. Just have to say.
Got to have those Luxardo cherries.
I know you do.
Favorite travel destination? Do you love to travel?
I love to travel. I love to travel with my family, so anywhere they go. But we used to have a little place in Cabo when we lived in San Diego, and we would go down there because it was close. So yeah, it was lovely. So that's my passion. I love Cabo. I love Italy. I love anywhere I travel. I just like to travel.
Yeah, Italy, wine.
Yeah,
Good.
I know.
Do you have a favorite app on your phone?
You should be saying the WAHHI app, right?
Oh, the WAHHI
The
app.
WAHHI app. Wordle. I'm doing
Wordle.
We do it with the whole family. It's hysterical. Today I got it too.
Yeah.
My sons are like, how? How did you do that? I have no idea. Those are probably my two favorite. And Cabby. I love my Cabby app. It tells me how to dress in the morning.
How does that work?
It's very cool. So whatever I purchased in the past or in client, it's in their closet, in the virtual closet. And you can
Okay.
wake up in the morning and push one of the things, like I want to wear this jacket, and then it'll show you things that you have in your closet that
That
you
will
should pair
go.
with it.
It's like Gur Animals for adults.
I know. And if you need an extra item from the spring collection, it'll add that in and say you might want to think about purchasing that. Yeah, it's very cool.
So my dad and my husband were both in the military, and when they transitioned from being in the military, they had no idea what to wear. So I put on their closet door, khaki pants, blue jacket, red tie, blue shirt. And so they could mix and match their wardrobe.
That's great.
It was kind of sad.
I think we still do that.
They need
I still do that with my
Gur
husband. I know.
Give me a little known fact. What do you want to share?
I was gonna say, I have to plug this one first. So Claudia was the baton twirler and I was the cheerleader. So I just thought we'd make that little Pittsburgh connection. So I was doing the cheers on the field and on the court while you were turning your baton, twirling your baton. But I think kind of my most unique thing that I've ever done is rappelled off of a building in San Diego. I think it was like 32 or 36 stories. Or I was chair of this organization and for special needs. And it's called Kids Included Together. So we taught agencies or restaurants or like SeaWorld or theme parks about how do you include. And so, and they have a huge military contract, at least they did at the time. I think they still do. And so it was our fundraiser. And we, I was the chair of the board at the time and I rappelled down
Wow,
the side of the building.
that's big.
Pretty crazy.
Did they make you sign a release?
Of course. Of course. And the only reason why I did it and thought I can do this, the gentleman that went down with me, he is a wonderful singer. I'll get his name, Justin Hines. And he was in a wheelchair himself and was born with severe disabilities. And so he went down alongside me.
That's
And
awesome.
I just remember his wife standing at the top and I'm like, oh, please. He was ready to go. They tied him in his wheelchair and down he went. And so it's like, I gotta do this.
If
So,
he can do that, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome. What is your favorite thing to do in Hilton Head or Bluffton or the Hilton Head Bluffton area or Bluffton?
well, I'm a foodie, so I love anything food,
Eating out.
any kind of happy hours. Yeah, and beach. I love my beach time, just walking. I love getting up in the morning and going walking the beach or riding bikes on the beach.
Did you go to Wing Fest on Saturday?
I did a Kappa Delta walk with Sigma Chi's and we raised money for, is it CASA? I'm gonna forget the name of it, for child abuse.
Yeah,
And
Casa.
yeah, and so we were there right next to it as it was starting to get crowded and people were
Awesome.
lined up. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we did our beach walking, including right next to it.
Fun. That's fun. Anybody else go to Wing Fest this weekend?
Was it fun?
It was quite well attended.
Was Guy at the RE or whatever? Then?
No,
His picture was all over the advertising.
not that I could find. We have a question here. Jane, what was the greatest obstacle you encountered in your personal and or your career? How did you overcome it?
It's a great one, Jude. I think I'm known for, I guess, my big heart in taking care of people. So if you asked, I know Claudia had asked you what your superpower was. I think that would probably be mine if I had to answer that. And so I have taken in two of my brothers over the course of the years for drug addiction, painkiller addiction, and one with alcohol. And the pain addiction guy, we got him through it, and you know, he lived right with us with my kids, and we all learned together about what that is. And he became very close to instead of Uncle Jack, he was Grandpa Jack. And he made it several years. He enrolled in school on his own in an online, non-traditional
Awesome.
university. He was halfway through his program, made straight A's. Amazing. I think he was probably in his late 50s, he was probably 60s. He was in his 60s. And he went to visit his son in Arizona and he had a heart attack.
Oh,
And, I think he probably relapsed. And that was very difficult. It took me a while to tell my kids. And we were devastated. He was so close. He was just part of the family. And so, but he made it. You know, we felt good about where he was. And
Yeah.
then a few years later, another brother with alcohol, so he came to live with us. And so far, so good. He's doing well. And I think it taught my kids a lot too. So it's something I don't regret. My mom lived with us for 18 years too. Marty
wow.
took her in right when my career started taking off, and she moved in with us, and she helped obviously the first many years with cooking and that sort of thing. And it was just amazing to have my kids surrounded by so many wonderful,
Yeah,
so many wonderful traditions and
family.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, those are probably my biggest hurdles. So losing two of them, you know, my mom and my brother was tough.
Awesome story of your help with Uncle Jack. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anybody else with a question or comment on Jane?
Yeah, I put a question out there, Tamra. I was wondering how you feel, Jane, about things like trade schools, apprenticeships. How do you feel that fits into the educational landscape? Because I know that there are folks who college is just not for them.
Correct, and that's getting bigger and bigger. So totally support it, right? There is something for everyone, and it doesn't have to be that traditional college experience. In fact, it's not going to stay that way, right? And I think there's more working adult students in school, no matter if it's trade school, higher ed, whatever, getting their GEDs. There's more than what's traditional students now. So I am in total support of that. Some of the work that's been done in community colleges with some of that, and the trade schools, phenomenal, right? As long as they have solid outcomes and they're accredited. I'm a big part of my passion is helping schools get accredited. So whatever that means, there's all kinds of different types of accreditation. So totally in support of that. And apprenticeships, marvelous for our kids right now, right? Love it. Yeah, good question.
Jane, what do you think of the colleges doing away with SATs?
Ooh, that's an interesting one because I work for the Princeton Review and we do test prep for all that.
Changing their financial
I
model.
know, right? We had to. A lot of schools had to go test optional, right? Because of COVID. And so my daughter was one of those who really couldn't get to the test.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's an individual decision with each of those schools. Some of them, I don't think they'll ever give it up, right? Some traditional schools and their faculty are just going to be steadfast and saying that that's important to them. Some schools, some faculty are saying it's not a predictor of success, which, there's all kind of research studies out. You can probably prove anything. So it's faculty choice, it's school choice. I do believe that it's not for everybody. It wasn't for all my kids. Some of my kids could excel and some couldn't at all. And so far they're making great grades in college, so it's, I could go either way, but I think there should be options for everyone. Very stressful for some kids, obviously coming from a special education background. It's
Certainly is.
I need all those avenues to help everyone get where they need to be so that they continue that learning journey for themselves. Yeah.
Anybody else with a question, comment, concern today? With that, we're going to say thank you so much for turning out for Jane McCauliffe today and our last member spotlight. We're excited that you all had the opportunity to participate today, know a little bit more about our president-elect for next year, and hopefully you'll be seeing her around town. Look forward to getting your feedback on the quick survey that we'll be sending out. And thank you guys so much for coming this afternoon.
Thanks,
Enjoy the
everybody.
day. Cheers.